Hello, lovely loves. This is kind of a test stream to see if this even works, which I'm honestly not sure if it's working. So let's see if I can figure it out. Okay. Oh, it is working. Okay. So I wanted to get on here today and first of all, test out this live stream. And then second of all, also to talk a little bit about seed starting and about abundance. So I went ahead and every year around this time, well, the past few years since I've had a house and a garden, I get really excited about starting seeds and just my garden. It's one of my hobbies that I just really enjoy. And so this year I'm actually starting out a bunch of seeds as usual, and I am subscribed to a few different gardening channels, and one of them is Roots and Refuge. And she talked about how she keeps track of things and she keeps things so organized. And honestly, she is such a sweet person. Like, I don't see how anyone could not like her. She has one of those personalities where it's like you have to like her or there's something going on internally because it's just so easy. She's just incredibly likable. And which is why her channel has like, I don't know, 200,000 subscribers or something. So anyhow, I went ahead and I wanted to chronicle what I've been starting and also understand how to work this live streaming thing. So this is what I've been starting. The first picture here are most of my tomatoes, and they're just seedlings right now because for us here it's not going to get warm enough until the end of the month, and I may need to repot them, and some of them I haven't thinned down. But I've actually looked at, I may try to save a few depending on how I feel. With some of the varieties, I really enjoy them so much from last year's harvest that I may, thin them out and like without cutting them and see if I can't save one to give to someone, just because that's the thing about seeds, and that's why this is also about abundance. So anyway, to chronicleize the seedlings, I have all these different types starting, and this is how they look. At the back there's peas. And one thing I learned from last year too is that I really enjoyed planting flowers more than I thought was possible. Let me see, am I able to? Okay. And then, okay, so here's another image here of, and these were all planted. No, actually, these were planted a little earlier, but this is actually an image of my beans. And this is my first year trying to grow beans. And they're really fast growers, so I may end up putting these out a little early and risking them dying in the frost. One thing is last year I did do things a little early, and I don't think I necessarily got a harvest any faster, but what I did get is I got frost and I was able to cover them and still save them, and this was like all my tomato plants at the time, or not all of them, but about half of them. So this year I'm probably going to just do that again with these, because the peas that you can see from the other image and then these are also all ready to go out. And so this is some varieties that I got from Baker Creek that I'm growing this year that I haven't grown last year. And one thing I learned from last year's harvest, which was my first real serious harvesting of plants, is that I really, really enjoy flowers and cut flowers. And I mean, I've always really liked flowers, and every now and then I would go to Trader Joe's and buy the flowers just to have around the house. And I was the type of person that would do that, but I didn't realize just how much gratification I would get from actually growing them and having them in my yard. And it was just as much, if not even more sometimes in the harvest. Like just seeing them and having so much love for them, and I can't really explain it. And knowing that you started them from seeds, and I was able to harvest a lot of seeds from my last year's garden as well. And so anyhow, I'll get back to that. This is some of the stuff that I am starting. I'm starting a mini bell pepper and the Trichonida kale, which is basically a kale that's, the reason I'm growing it is because it's a little softer than other kales, and it's I guess a cross between, maybe, I have really a hard time with spinach, and I'm trying to come up with substitutes. So I'm thinking this might be a slight substitute. I know it won't be exactly like spinach because it's not spinach, but if my spinach doesn't work out again this year, this is heat tolerant and softer, so it may be something that I would like. Okay, so here I have chives, my basil, my dill, and the way I labeled them, I probably should have cut the sticks in half. And I probably will next year, so I'll get double, but I was just in a hurry to get stuff in, and these are just starting out. And this is my first year growing chives. I grew a lot of basil, and basil's really easy to grow. I have 3 different varieties, even more than that actually. And so this is my flower tray. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it's also one of those things where it's like I had so much joy from my flowers last year that I'm starting them out earlier this year. I'm doing sunflowers this year, as you can see the large ones there. Nasturtiums I love. I'm going to try to harvest them and do different things with them this year as well. My nasturtiums especially, where I may try to do like an alcohol tincture with them because of their properties, which I didn't know. So I'm learning a lot about that, and I think it is important for people to know how to be self-sufficient, and gardening and learning how to grow your own food is one major way that you can be. Any steps you can take toward that is good, in my opinion, just because you're able to take care of yourself better and to know what's going on in the whole process of what you're putting into your body. Of course, I'm not 100%, or do I think I will be anytime soon 100% fed by my own, garden and my own things. But anything I can do to get in that direction to help me to feel like I'm more sustainable on my own is a very important step that I would like to know, and I would like to be able to also teach to my children. And actually the whole bed, my whole vegetable, like cold weather / tomato bed that I started was completely planted by my daughter. And she was really good. I mean, I instructed her, but it's just, she's 7, so she's at the age where she can really get that. And I think it's important that she sees that, and that she sees the process, and she harvests with me. And she's also learning which weeds we have in our backyard that are edible. And like the other day, she's like, oh, let me try this dandelion, because we have little dandelion sprouts coming up in our yard. And I'm like, okay, go ahead, go in, wash it off really good. You can taste it. You can tell me what you think. And she's just like, oh my gosh, you're so good. And so it's just learning these things I think are important, so that you know. This image here is my sweet alyssum that I'm growing. And I threw a lettuce in there to see if it would survive, because I was sitting down, or it was kind of in a weird spot in my other bed, or my other seed starter. And I just said, oh, you know what, let me see how it is. And here, I may just have this grow to where it's a lot larger, and then transplant some of it to certain areas in my yard, because it's kind of like a cover crop. And so yeah, so about the abundance talk. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this, and then about abundance, because I guess it's possible that the people that are listening to this stuff about gardening may not want to hear anything about abundance. But I think that as a gardener, you learn about it. And this reminds me of Louisiana gardening family. He had this image where he was out, and he lives in Louisiana, obviously, so he lives in more of a southern area where there's fruiting trees. And you know, he was talking about how there's all these fruiting trees and people are just letting them go to waste, and it's just, our society is made up of people that don't realize the abundance that we have. And that's kind of what he was saying, is just, you know, we are so abundant, but we're blocking it. We don't know it. And you can see that as a gardener. You can see that with seeds. Like, for instance, the seeds I'm growing here, a lot of them, I put, you know, every single one of them is sprouting. And then the thing is that each one of these plants has the potential to just give pounds and pounds of fruit, and then thousands upon thousands of more seeds. And this is the type of abundance that surrounds us all. We're all surrounded by this incredible amount of abundance, but we don't know it because we think that we're in a lack reality. We're told that there's not enough. And so we train ourselves to block the fact that everywhere we look, there is complete and absolute abundance. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit, was just that aspect of things. Oh, let me switch over to this one because I didn't even... yeah. So yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to talk about, was that aspect of things, because I didn't even realize how abundant things were until I went about collecting seeds. And so this past year I grew, there was a few things in my garden that just grew so incredible, where I'm like, how is this growing like this? Like, what did I do to make this grow so well? It was just growing absolutely ridiculously. And then, you know, I used as much as I could. The thing about it is that it's almost impossible sometimes to use everything, like to really harvest everything. And I mean, maybe, especially if you're harvesting where you're not just killing it, like, plants grow so that you can, most all of them grow and you can continuously harvest from them. It's not like you have to cut the whole lettuce head off. Like, you can just harvest the outer leaves of the lettuce. And even with things like cabbage, it's not like just that cabbage middle is what's edible. Everything on that plant is edible. All the leaves around it are edible. And so, you know, I was harvesting and harvesting, and then eventually things just went to seed. And it was just an incredible amount of seeds, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so many seeds. And I'm like, well, maybe my daughter can help me with these seeds. And she did, and we tried, but we didn't get nearly all of the seeds. There were so many seeds that there's no way we got all the seeds. And eventually this year I went to seed swap, so I was able to give some of them away, and then also take some other ones that maybe other people in the neighborhood harvested. And that's a good way to build the health of the crops in your area, because last year was really rainy season here, so the seeds that were harvested are going to be equipped to deal with the rainy seasons. Now, if we get a drought, we may have to go back to a different type of seed that was more drought resistant. And that's the thing, the weather here, you never know what you're going to get. Like, you never know what the summer is going to be like. Sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's another way. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit, is just how important knowing these things are. And I also wanted to do a little video showing the date, where I'm at on things, so I can kind of keep track a little bit better this year. And hopefully this year I'll even be able to live stream more from my garden. And if I'm not showing things, I'm at least showing images of things that are going on and where things are. Let's see. Another thing I'm growing this year is the watercress, and then I get a free seed variety always from them, and they gave me a cinnamon basil, which is fine. It's growing in my arrow garden, which, do I have a picture of that here? I don't think I do. I think I didn't bring one in here. But either way, it actually is what helped me to start gardening. Having an arrow garden is what helped me to actually start gardening. So I don't think there's anyone in the chat. And that's cool anyway. I wasn't necessarily planning to chat with anyone. It's just since I'm on live stream in my house, I might as well check. But yeah, so that's really what's going on. I wanted to chronicleize it a little bit, at least the starting point of where I'm at, where things are, to note that gardening is one way you can really teach your kids to be self-sufficient and about abundance, because unless you go through seeing things like this and witnessing it and experiencing it, you don't realize just how true it is, because we really learn best through experiences, and experiencing the abundance of gardening, the abundance of seeds, and how, I mean, even some of the things from last year reseeded all on their own, just randomly in random places. And just seeing that can kind of help you to know that, you know, this whole universe is this way, and it's only the power that we have in us that block it. Like, we're blocking or we're affirming lack, which then shows itself in an abundant way because we've decided we want to see it that way. So you can say, you know, I don't have this, I don't have, and then the universe will give you that in abundance because you've decided that you want to not have. But in reality, it's always abundance. It's just, how do you want to see it? Like, how do you want to see that abundance? So, yep, that was all I wanted to say. And I think I do like this streaming service, and I'm happy I watched those YouTube tutorials on how to do this, because it seems like it's an easy way to get a video out without having to edit. So, thank you guys so much, and later loves. Bye.